Hi, welcome to video number 5 for nurse practitioners practicing in the state of North Carolina. These videos are helpful tips and information for nurse practitioners. Today we're going to be discussing a 2018 closed case study that was done by the medical malpractice insurance carrier, the Doctors Company. Within that study, there were a number of complaints that they examined and tried to find the underlying reason for those complaints. The number one reason for complaints that they found was failure in diagnosis or delay in diagnosis of a patient's condition. And they found that the number one reason for failure of diagnosis or delay in diagnosis was lack of patient assessment. What that means is the nurse practitioner and or supervising physician were unable to correctly diagnose what the condition of the patient was, either in a timely manner or they just did a mixed diagnosis at all. So patient assessment really boils down to, did you have adequate medical history of the patient? Did you ask the right questions of the patient? Did you acquire enough information from the patient to make a proper diagnosis? Now, I'm just going to say this with a caveat. This happens to attorneys a lot, and I've been practicing law since 2008, and I have had many clients that leave information out. I understand how very frustrating it is. At the end of the day, we need to be very skilled as professionals, especially as licensed professionals, in asking the correct question of our client or patient. Because if you end up not asking a very simple question, you're not able to get a very simple diagnosis. Okay? So go over certain things with your supervising physician of, all right, well, typically when somebody is coming to our office and they are initially complaining of stomach pain, well, it might be, might need to explore that it's this diagnosis. But how do we get there? How do we get the proper information? Well, we need to ask this question, this question, this question, this question. And if you need to ask 20 questions, fine. If you need to ask 30 questions, fine. As long as you're able to get the type of information that you need to make a proper diagnosis, okay? Now, even if you do that, and trust me, I've been there on the legal side of it. You know, you have a client, you ask them every single question you can think of that would be viable to come up with a solution to their problem. Because at the end of the day, you know, we're problem solvers. Medical professionals solve medical problems. Attorneys solve legal issues. So there's a lot of similarities there. You know, but at the end of the day, you ask as many questions as you can. You've exhausted the list of questions that a reasonable physician or nurse practitioner in your particular situation might ask, and you're still not getting the information that might be necessary for proper diagnosis. You know, look, from that end, you've done everything you possibly can. The other thing that might be helpful, that is helpful for catching certain things, is a patient history. If you have a patient that has a parent with a certain medical history that might be pertinent to what ends up being their diagnosis, you need to acquire that information. So those are things that you can readily acquire from the front end when you're doing an intake. You know, say your receptionist is in charge of the intakes, they should be able to acquire that information. And if they're not, maybe it's not worth having that person as a patient. There's a lot of people I wish I would have had the opportunity to represent, but at the end of the day, they didn't cooperate with me, and it was going to not be a good fit for us. If you got a patient that's not going to be a good fit for you, don't try to force it. There'll probably be a better fit with somebody else. And at the end of the day, you need to come up with a proper diagnosis, because that seems to be the highest likelihood of there being some legal issue that you might run into, is if there is an improper diagnosis or a delay in the diagnosis, okay? And apparently patient assessment seems to be the most contributing factor to a bad diagnosis or a delay in the diagnosis. And like I said, sometimes it's not even the physician or the nurse practitioner's fault. Sometimes it's just a bad fit with the patient and the nurse practitioner. So have a little bit of a screening process as well. Make sure you ask the right questions. Make sure you have a really good patient history, patient family history, patient history of themselves as well. That's obviously very important too. So it's all about acquiring the most information you possibly can, asking the right questions. I know I said that 15 times, but it is extremely important. So if anybody has any questions on this or needs any further information, I'd be glad to provide you that study, or just speak about it and answer any questions you might have that I might have the answers to. Okay, so reach me at 919-521-8810. That's by text or telephone. You can also reach me, Nick at NorthStateLawFirm.com is my email. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and what was the other one? Still not on TikTok. So there's just those three. Oh, and YouTube as well. I've got a lot of useful information on YouTube also. Okay, so check me out on those. Look forward to speaking with everybody in the future, and everybody have a great day. Bye-bye.